Cheating in online video games has reached absurd levels. But just how absurd are they? How many people across major shooters do you think was banned in 2024? We'll get to that later in the video. What started as harmless cheat codes in single-player games, think God Mode or Infinite Ammo, has evolved into a $1 million arms race of sophisticated hacks, exploits, and aimbots. From pro league tournaments where fame and fortune are on the line to casual lobbies filled with everyday gamers, the surge in cheating has forced game companies to invest enormous resources into anti-cheat measures. It has also made it extremely hard for casual gamers to enjoy multiplayer games. In this video, we'll dive into the history behind cheating in online games, explore the methods, and uncover the real-world consequences of an epidemic that's rapidly reshaping the landscape of gaming. Cheating in video games actually began as a practical tool for QA testing in the early 1980s. Developers used cheat codes to streamline playtesting, letting them jump from different parts of the game or access specific scenarios without having to play from the start every single time. Let's look at a brief example of a QA tester. Imagine you're a QA tester tasked with testing a virtual shop for potential edge cases. These are situations that players typically don't encounter but can arise unexpectedly due to bugs or unconventional playstyles, like for example never buying any items and thus accumulating a massive amount of currency. In normal gameplay, earning such a large sum would be time consuming. Instead, testers could use a simple cheat code to grant themselves, say, 999.999 coins instantly, allowing them to test how the shop handles extreme inputs and scenarios much more efficiently. Originally, these debug tools were hidden behind developer menus and test codes, but over time, they became accessible to regular players. Magazines and word of mouth helped popularize cheat codes, and gamers could choose whether to play the game as intended or use these codes for an extra layer of fun or convenience. A great example of this is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where intricate controller inputs could spawn vehicles, grant infinite money, or give you invincibility. These cheats turned an already entertaining game into a chaotic playground, perfect for experimenting and goofing around after a legitimate playthrough. As more players got a taste for shortcuts and novelty modes, the demand for cheating methods soared. My earliest memory of a third-party cheating tool came in the form of the Action Replay for the Nintendo DS. I remember buying an Action Replay after hearing about it from a friend of mine. It was basically a cartridge extension that you could put your games into, and it allowed you to directly manipulate the memory of the game. I played around with this a lot, but I mostly used it in Pokemon Platinum. I live in Norway, and back in 2008, the most sought-after mystery gift events never included the Nordics. It was usually just the US, Japan, and Central Europe that had access to these events, so with this device, I was able to gain access to region-locked mystery gift Pokemons like Arceus and Deoxys. It also gave me tools to mess around with the game and simply break the usual rules. It breathed new life into it. And trust me, at this point, I'd probably finished this game at least 10 times. The Action Replay was pretty popular when it came out, and it marked a shift because you went from using intended cheats to using third-party software and hardware. At this point, it was becoming more and more apparent that cheating was evolving beyond mere novelty and into an ever-growing phenomenon. Before we dive deeper, let's take a quick look at some abbreviations and common cheats that are used in online video games today. Extrasensory perception cheats, also known as ESPs or simply wall hacks, often abbreviated as WH, is a cheat that enables the player to look through walls, essentially gaining an unfair advantage where they constantly have real-time visual information on where the enemy is located. Now, there are obviously variations of this cheat where some give you information on their health, their name, their operator, but it's probably one of the more commonly used cheats because if trained, you can essentially hide the fact that you're cheating and mask it behind sound cues or other legitimate game mechanics. There are mainly two types of aimbots that are used today. You have the regular aimbot, which basically perfectly locks your aim on an enemy and requires little to no effort from the player's perspective. This is often paired with a trigger bot. The trigger bot can monitor the player's field of view and trigger the aimbot only if it can visually see the enemy. But again, this can also be configured in a number of different ways, and and doesn't necessarily have to work just as I explained. You also have something called a spin bot or a spin hack, and it's generally just a more advanced and precise form of aimbot. When used, the player will spin around like a carousel, and the idea is that the aimbot can gain constant information in 360 degrees around the player. On the client side, it's usually normal, but to others, they spin around crazy in 360 degrees, like this. Soft aim is also a cheat that can improve your aim, and is also used extensively. This cheat can try to simulate human error by introducing randomness to the lock-on effect, and can also make shots that would otherwise miss hit, kinda like homing or bending bullets. Speed hacks and flight hacks are also used, and the names are pretty self-explanatory. I personally don't see these cheats too often, but they are used. There's obviously a ton of other cheats I haven't mentioned, and the cheats provided today are highly configurable, but broadly speaking, these are the most common ones. It's tough to pinpoint the very first instance of online cheating. Technically, players have been finding ways to exploit games in multiplayer settings since the earliest network titles like Doom and Unreal. However, many gamers recall Call of Duty Modern Warfare as one of the first high-profile modern examples where online cheating went mainstream. This probably happened because Modern Warfare introduced a more casual experience to millions of players and included console players. The game was a landmark first-person shooter and introduced millions of players to competitive, skill-based multiplayer. Unfortunately, when you put millions of players up against each other, you're bound to find someone who is willing to bend the rules. This period marked the beginning of what would later become a constant cat and mouse game between game developers and cheat providers. From here on out, the issue spread and no game was truly safe. The prevalence of cheats at this point was becoming more and more noticeable, but it wasn't as common as today. Sure, you could meet a cheater here and there, but back in Modern Warfare, cheaters were mostly small communities on third-party servers, and cheats were far less accessible than they are today. The cheating back then was also often blatantly obvious, where cheaters would just run around killing everyone and just stomp on entire lobbies. You basically often had no chance of doing anything once you first encountered a cheater, so you had to leave the game. This is still true today, but the cheating scene has changed dramatically over the last few years. Fast forward to a few months into the COVID-19 pandemic and the onset of lockdowns, and the cheating scene reached unprecedented levels. In fact, multiple academic papers highlighted a surge in cheating within educational settings, often attributed to the shift to remote learning and the absence of in-person supervision. With students rarely attending physical classes, they had access to tools that enable dishonest practices, an approach that may have spilled over into video game cheating as well. I'm obviously digressing a bit here, but I think it's a nice thing to put into perspective, because I think that once you start cheating in something, it's a lot easier to start cheating in other areas as well. Combine that with the fact that more and more people started playing video games because they were basically locked inside, and a lot of people were also probably bored. Then statistically speaking, you are bound to increase the cheating. At this point, it's fair to say that cheating has been a part of gaming for a while, but in recent years, its purpose has shifted from casual fun to personal gain. With the rise of streaming, esports, and lucrative sponsorships, cheating is no longer just trolling lobbies or experimenting with game mechanics. It has become a shortcut to fame and fortune. Professional gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the rewards for being at the top are immense. Tournament prize pools can reach millions, and a strong competitive presence can lead to sponsorships, influencer deals, and a devoted fanbase. Unfortunately, this has motivated some players to cheat in order to secure their spot in the spotlight. Some famous cases include Forsaken, who was caught using an aimbot during a live tournament. He was banned mid-match and his team was instantly disqualified. His actions effectively ended his career and tarnished his team's reputation. Xiao Wei Xiao, I hope I pronounced that correct, was found guilty of elo boosting. In essence, he was paid to play on other accounts, artificially raising their ranking. Azubu Frost was fined for unsportsmanlike conduct after gaining unfair information during a world championship match. One of their teammates gained unfair information by looking at a screen behind him. These examples highlight how cheating for financial and reputational gain carries serious risks. While it may lead to temporary success, exposure results in permanent bans, destroyed careers, and damaged credibility. These are just a few of the examples of people in the esports scene getting fined or banned. There are obviously more, but this just goes to show you that when even a person from the esports scene is willing to cheat, you can see how much is potentially at stake. Beyond esports, streaming has created an entirely new avenue for cheaters to profit. In the past, cheating was often blatant. Players would spinbot, teleport, or use obvious hacks just for laughs. Today, many cheaters are far more discreet, using subtle hacks like soft aim and wall hacks to fake skill without drawing suspicion. The sad part is that a lot of these people do this because they can build an audience, they can gain sponsorships, they can monetize their quote-unquote talent. They attract viewers who tune in to watch seemingly top-tier players, only to later discover that they were using hacks to maintain their performance. There are countless examples of people online getting caught while streaming, and usually it happens when they blow up and people start noticing them. After a little while, they slip and they show their cheats. Before I say what I'm about to say, I just want to make it perfectly clear that I do not condone any form of cheating at all. Can you blame them? Most of them are probably just struggling to face the fact that their dream of being a pro is just not happening. On top of that, if you're a new streamer, you don't really have much to lose. Sure, you'll be ridiculed online and most definitely banned, but for a lot of these people, the benefits far outweighs the risk. I want to give a short personal story about this. I have a close friend who spent years trying to go pro in Counter-Strike. That was just his dream. He was really trying every day, but after several years, he finally admitted to himself that he just wasn't good enough. He never cheated or anything, but you can only imagine how it feels to be him in that moment. Something you've been working for years, and then all of a sudden you have to realize that this isn't it. You're not good enough. What I'm trying to say here is that you can sort of feel for these people, so I want to be careful judging them. It is of course a really scummy thing to do, but again, can you blame them? The point I'm trying to make in the end of this chapter is basically that I can see a clear trend in how cheating has evolved from something you did for fun back in the day to now something people seriously consider as a viable business option. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons why we're seeing so many cheaters today. There's always a new kid on the block who wants to be the next big streamer or the next big esport hero, and the result of that is an insane increase in cheating. So, how many cheaters do you think was banned in 2024? We're talking total player counts over all the popular games like Escape from Tarkov, Siege, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warzone, CS, PUBG, etc, etc. Over 4 million accounts. Although it's hard to get the real number because they vary so much and the information is spread all over the place, you can clearly see a rising trend. I compared some estimates from 2018 versus 2023 and got this graph. Keep in mind that this is just from the games displayed on screen, and the Call of Duty data in 2023 included Warzone. They're also just estimates and the numbers might even be higher. With a rampant increase in cheating, game companies have been forced to invest tens of millions of dollars in anti-cheat technology. Some, like Valorant, even went so far to enforce fair play that they put the privacy of their players at risk by introducing kernel-level anti-cheat. DRMs and anti-cheat technologies is a huge topic that I'm not going to elaborate too much on in this video, but the point is that the game companies are spending enormous resources every year to combat the ongoing cheating. While these anti-cheat solutions have somewhat helped mitigating the issue, combined with the fact that some game companies have straight up just sued big cheat providers, the issue is still far from resolved. The consequences for the individual cheater are just way too lenient. It's rarely anything else than an account ban, and unfortunately, with the rise of AI-assisted cheats and hardware spoofing, it's getting increasingly hard to combat them. Now, this is the part of the video where I'm gonna get a little bit negative, because I genuinely fear for online gaming. And at this pace, I fear that the days of competitive online gaming as we once knew it are long gone. When I talk to friends about it, I like to put it like this: as long as there's demand, the supply will always follow. Cut off one head and another one takes its place. Maybe the solution later down the line is an AI model that can detect inhuman level capabilities. Basically, Homeless made a promising video on this technology, but at this point, it's not looking good. So that marks the end of this video. I want to thank you so much for watching it. I really hope you enjoyed it. Keep in mind that the numbers I came up with are just estimates, so take them with a grain of salt. Please feel free to comment down below. I really want to hear your experience in this epidemic of cheating. And with that, I'm Rolf, and I hope you have an amazing day.